Imagine working 40 hours a week, skipping nights out with your friends, and sacrificing your weekends just to save some money. You open your banking app, look at your growing balance, and feel proud. You think you're winning the financial game. But the brutal truth is, your bank is legally robbing you every single day. When Albert Einstein was once asked what the most powerful force in the universe was, he didn't mention the theory of relativity, black holes, or quantum physics. Instead, he smiled and said, "It's compound interest. It is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it." But if you walk into a bank today, nobody will ever tell you about this formula. Why? Because banks make billions by keeping you financially blind, encouraging you to leave your hard-earned savings sitting dead in a checking account. Today, we're going to expose the exact step-by-step path to break free from this trap. This is the story of how a regular guy named Richie stopped being just a saver, activated Einstein's secret formula, and built a passive money-making machine. If you want to know how you can do the exact same thing starting today, pay close attention to every single step, because step number 4 will completely flip your understanding of wealth. Step 1, the trap, the bank account illusion. Let's meet Richie. Richie is an average 25-year-old guy. He works a regular job, hates waking up early, and makes a decent living. Every month, after paying rent and buying groceries, Richie manages to do something most people fail to do. He saves $200. He puts that money straight into his savings account. Month after month, year after year, Richie watches that number go up. He feels safe, protected, and smart. But Richie is making a catastrophic mistake. He is trapped in a grand financial illusion because he doesn't see his true enemy, a silent thief called inflation. Richie goes to the supermarket. Back in 2021, his favorite box of cereal cost $3. Today, that exact same box costs $4.50, and to make it worse, the box is actually smaller. This is what economists call shrinkflation. Richie thinks it's just bad luck, but it's actually his money losing its value. Fast forward 5 years, Richie has disciplined himself and accumulated exactly $12,000 in his bank account. He finally decides to buy the used car he had his eyes on for years, which used to cost $10,000. He walks into the dealership confident, only to find out that the exact same car now costs $15,000. Numerically, Richie's money stayed exactly the same. But in the real world, its purchasing power was completely destroyed. By leaving his money dead in the bank, Richie didn't protect his wealth. He watched it rot. The bank took his money, invested it to make themselves rich, and left Richie with paper that buys less and less every single day. Step 2, the armor, the fund that saves your life. Terrified by the reality of inflation, Richie panics. He decides he needs to invest all his money immediately. He downloads a flashy trading app on his phone, watches a couple of hype videos on TikTok, and prepares to dump his entire $12,000 into hyped-up tech stocks and volatile cryptocurrencies. He wants quick gains, and he wants them now. But right as Richie is about to press the buy button, life hits him hard. It's a rainy Tuesday morning. On his way to work, Richie hears a horrific metallic noise coming from his car engine. Thick black smoke starts pouring out of the hood. He gets towed to the mechanic, who looks at him and says, "That's a blown transmission. It's going to be $2,500. To make matters worse, that very same night, Richie chips his front tooth while eating dinner. The dentist bill? Another $500. Boom. A $3,000 financial punch straight to the face in less than 24 hours. If Richie had invested all his money the day before, and the stock market happened to be down 10% that week, he would have been forced to sell his investments at a massive loss just to pay the mechanic and the dentist. This is where most beginners fail and go broke. Fortunately, Richie takes a step back. He realizes he needs financial armor before entering the battlefield of investing. This armor is called an emergency fund. Richie sets aside a pile of liquid cash equal to exactly 6 months of his living expenses. Money kept in a separate account meant only for real-life emergencies. With his armor on, Richie achieves ultimate psychological peace of mind. No matter what chaos happens in the real world, his future investments will never have to be touched. Step 3. The map. Knowing your timeline. Now that Richie is protected by his emergency fund, he feels ready. But he doesn't just blindly jump into the market. He sits down at his desk with a pen and paper to draw his financial map. He realizes that all money is not created equal, and it all depends on his time horizon. He divides his remaining savings into 2 distinct buckets. Bucket number 1 is his short-term money. Richie knows he wants to move into a bigger apartment and go on a vacation to Japan in the next 2 years. Because his timeline is so short, he cannot afford to risk this money in the stock market, where prices can wildly swing up and down in a matter of months. For this bucket, Richie chooses a high-yield savings account or short-term government bonds. It doesn't make him rich, but it keeps the money safe and beats a traditional bank account. Bucket number 2 is his long-term money. This is the cash Richie won't need for the next 10, 15, or 20 years. For this bucket, Richie knows that time is his ultimate superpower. In the short term, the stock market is a roller coaster. But in the long term, history shows that the global market has overcome every single war, recession, and pandemic, always pushing to new all-time highs. Richie finally has a map, and he is ready to unleash Einstein's formula. Step 4. The snowball. Unleashing Einstein's magic. This is the exact moment where Richie activates the 8th wonder of the world, compound interest. To truly understand how this changed Richie's life, you need to understand the difference between how poor people think about returns versus how wealthy people do. Simple interest is linear and boring. If you invest $1,000 at a 10% return, you make $100. The next year you make another 100, and the year after that, another 100. It's slow, and it doesn't scale. Compound interest, however, is interest earning interest on top of interest. During year 1, Richie invests his money and makes a small profit, let's say $50. Instead of taking that $50 out to buy a new pair of shoes, Richie leaves it inside the investment. In year 2, his 10% return is no longer calculated on his original money. It's calculated on his new total. He is now earning money on the money his money already made. At first, the difference looks completely invisible. It feels like pennies. But watch what happens when you let the math run. If Richie saves and invests a modest $200 a month at an average 10% annual return, after 10 years, he will have roughly $41,000. Not bad, but nothing crazy. But if Richie simply keeps the autopilot on and lets Einstein's formula run for 30 years, he won't just have 3 times that amount. Because the curve goes vertical, Richie will be sitting on nearly $450,000, almost $500,000 built from just $200 a month. The magic isn't in how much money Richie started with. The magic is that Richie gave the snowball enough time to roll down the mountain. Step 5. The basket. How to actually buy the market. Richie is completely sold on the math, but now he faces a massive practical problem. What does he actually buy? At first, he thinks about buying individual stocks like Tesla, Apple, or Nvidia, but Richie remembers a classic rule his grandfather told him. Never put all your eggs in one basket. If Richie puts all his savings into one company, and that company suffers a massive scandal, gets hit by a lawsuit, or goes bankrupt, Richie's entire life savings will vanish overnight. He doesn't have the time to read financial reports for 6 hours a day. That is when Richie discovers ETFs, or exchange-traded funds. Instead of buying a single stock, an ETF allows Richie to buy a massive financial basket that automatically holds tiny pieces of hundreds or even thousands of the biggest and most successful companies across the entire globe with a single click. If one company in the basket goes bankrupt, it doesn't matter, because there are 999 other corporate giants pushing the total value of the basket up. By utilizing broad market ETFs, Richie effectively diversifies his money on a global scale. He's no longer gambling on a single stock. He is literally betting on the growth of human civilization. The risk is minimized, the management fees are close to zero, and he doesn't need a degree in finance to do it. Step 6. The autopilot. Wealthy while you sleep. Richie has the knowledge, the map, and the tools. But he knows himself. He knows that his biggest enemy isn't the market. It's his own human psychology. He knows that if he looks at the stock market charts every single day, He will freak out and want to sell everything the moment prices drop. And he will get greedy and buy too much when prices bubble up. To save himself from his own emotions, Richie sets up the ultimate autopilot system, dollar-cost averaging. He logs into a reputable investment platform, connects his bank account, and sets up a recurring transfer. Every single month, precisely one day after his paycheck hits his account, $200 are automatically moved and invested into his global ETF. Richie completely removes human choice from the equation. If the market is crashing and everyone on the news is crying, Richie's autopilot automatically buys shares at a massive discount. If the market is at an all-time high, his autopilot buys fewer shares. Richie stops guessing. He stops stressing. While his friends spend their nights staring at flashing red and green lights on their phones, sweating over crypto prices, Richie is out, living his life, hanging out with friends, and sleeping peacefully. His wealth is compounding in total silence. Conclusion today, Richie is no longer a victim of the banking system. He isn't a stressed out saver watching his money lose value to inflation every year. He's a calm, disciplined investor watching his financial snowball grow bigger with every single tick of the clock, all thanks to a simple formula that Albert Einstein figured out a long time ago. Turning your savings into investments doesn't require millions of dollars or genius intelligence. It just requires the courage to get started and the patience to let time do the heavy lifting. Protect yourself with an emergency fund, understand your timeline, buy the entire basket through ETFs, and turn on the autopilot. The best day to start investing was 10 years ago. The second best day is today. So let me ask you, are you going to keep letting your money rot in a bank account? Or are you ready to activate the eighth wonder of the world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this video brought you value, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next levels of this financial journey, and we will see you in the very next video.